Alex had been driving for almost 3 hours. The rain hadn't stopped once. It wasn't a violent storm, just a steady, endless downpour that blurred the empty highway into streaks of silver. The windshield wipers moved back and forth with perfect rhythm. Left, right, left, right. There were no other cars, no houses, no signs, only darkness and the occasional street lamp glowing through the thick blue fog. As Alex passed beneath another lamp, something caught his eye. A man. He stood on the shoulder of the road, no umbrella, no jacket. His head was lowered, and his hands hung motionless at his sides. Alex frowned. Who would stand out here in weather like this? He glanced in the rearview mirror. The man had already disappeared into the darkness. Alex shook his head and kept driving. A few minutes later, another lonely street lamp appeared ahead. As the headlights reached it, the same man was standing there. Exactly the same posture. Head lowered. Perfectly still. Alex looked at the dashboard clock. He hadn't turned around. He hadn't taken another road. That wasn't possible. A nervous laugh escaped his lips. Probably someone else. He pressed harder on the accelerator. The car surged forward. Rain pounded against the windshield. Another lamp emerged from the fog. The man's silhouette was waiting beneath it. This time he seemed closer. Not by much. Just enough for Alex to notice. His clothes were soaked. His face remained hidden. Alex's heartbeat quickened. He locked the doors without thinking. Click. The sound echoed inside the silent car. He drove faster. The engine roared. One lamp, then another. Each time the man was there. Always waiting. Always closer. Never moving. Never walking. Simply appearing. Alex's hands tightened around the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white. His breathing became uneven. He refused to look directly at the figure anymore. He stared only at the road. Just keep driving. Finally, the last street lamp disappeared behind him. The road opened into darkness. There was no one ahead. No one behind. Only rain. Alex exhaled for the first time in what felt like hours. It was nothing, he whispered. His heart slowly began to calm. He reached up to adjust the rear-view mirror. And froze. Someone was sitting in the back seat. The same soaked man. Motionless. Head lowered. Alex couldn't breathe. Slowly, the figure lifted his face. His skin was pale, his eyes were completely black. A thin smile spread across his lips. Then he whispered, "Thank you for bringing me home." The car swerved violently. Its headlights vanished into the rain. The empty road fell silent once again. The next night, beneath the first lonely street lamp, a new figure stood in the rain. Motionless. Waiting. For the next passing car. Laura had stayed late at the office. By the time she shut down her computer, the clock read 11:57 p.m. The building was almost completely empty. The hallways echoed with silence. Only the faint hum of fluorescent lights filled the air. She walked to the elevator and pressed the call button. A few seconds later, the doors slid open. No one was inside. Laura stepped in and pressed 1. The doors closed, the elevator began to descend. The display counted down normally, 15, 14, 13, everything seemed fine. Then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Laura reached for her bag, expecting the doors to open. Instead, the elevator kept moving. The display changed. 0, she frowned. That's strange. A second later, -1. Laura forced a nervous smile. Probably a maintenance level. But the elevator continued. -2. The air inside the cabin suddenly felt colder. The lights flickered once. Then again. Laura pressed the door open button. Nothing happened. She hit the emergency stop. Still nothing. The elevator kept descending. Finally it stopped. A soft chime echoed through the cabin. The doors slowly opened. Beyond them was a long office corridor. It looked exactly like the floor she had just left. The same glass walls, the same desks. The same computers, every monitor was glowing. The ceiling lights were on. The air conditioning quietly hummed. But there wasn't a single person anywhere. Not one. Laura cautiously stepped out. The sound of her heels echoed through the empty office. Then one of the computer monitors suddenly turned on. White letters appeared on the black screen. "Welcome back." Laura froze. "Who's there?" Only silence answered. Then at the far end of the hallway another light switched on. Beneath it stood a man, a dark silhouette. Completely motionless, his face hidden in shadow. Laura slowly backed toward the elevator. Just as she reached it, the doors began to close. No! She lunged forward, slipping her arm between them. The doors immediately reopened. She rushed inside and slammed the one button. The doors closed. The elevator began to rise. The numbers slowly climbed. -2 -101. The doors opened. The familiar lobby stood before her. People were walking past. The security guard sat behind his desk as if nothing had happened. Laura hurried over. "Does this building have a basement?" The guard looked confused. "No. But he slowly shook his head. "This building has never had one." Laura left without saying another word. Rain was falling softly over the nearly empty parking lot. She unlocked her car. Then, for reasons she couldn't explain, she looked back at the building. On the 15th floor, in the window of her office, a dark figure was standing perfectly still, watching her. Then she noticed something worse. Standing beside the figure was another person, someone who looked exactly like her. Both figures slowly raised one hand, and silently waved goodbye. Mark had never deleted his younger brother's phone number. 3 years had passed since Daniel disappeared without a trace. No body was ever found, no goodbye. Only silence. Friends told Mark to move on. His parents eventually accepted that Daniel would never come home. But every year, on the anniversary of his disappearance, Mark found himself scrolling through old messages, listening to forgotten voice notes, trying to remember the sound of his brother's laugh. That night, rain tapped softly against the apartment windows. The clock on the bedside table read 3:14 a.m., then his phone vibrated. One notification. New voicemail from Daniel. Mark froze. His heart skipped a beat. His hands trembled as he unlocked the phone. The message had been received just now. He pressed play. Static filled the speaker. For a few seconds there was nothing. Then Daniel's frightened voice whispered, "Mark, don't answer the door." The recording ended. 7 seconds. Nothing else. A second later, knock. 3 slow knocks echoed through the apartment. Mark stared toward the front door. His blood ran cold. No one knew he lived here. Another 3 knocks. Slow. Patient. He forced himself to look through the peephole. Nothing. The hallway was empty. His breathing became heavier. Maybe someone was playing a prank. Maybe knock. This time louder. Mark stepped back. His phone vibrated again. Another voicemail. From Daniel. He pressed play. Heavy breathing. Then a whisper. "Don't look through the peephole again." Mark instinctively pulled away from the door. A cold shiver ran down his spine. Minutes passed. The knocking stopped. Silence returned. Mark sat on the floor, unable to move. At sunrise, he finally gathered enough courage to open the apartment door. The hallway was empty. No footprints. No package. Nothing. Just silence. He laughed nervously. Maybe exhaustion had made him imagine everything. Then his neighbor stepped into the hallway. "You heard it too?" she asked quietly. Mark frowned. "The knocking?" She nodded. The man across the hall opened his door around 3:15. She looked toward the apartment opposite Mark's. The police came an hour later. Mark slowly turned his head. Velo police tape sealed the neighboring apartment. His stomach tightened. "What happened?" The neighbor lowered her voice. "They found the apartment empty." Mark blinked. "Empty?" She nodded. "The only strange thing," she hesitated, "there was a phone lying on the floor." Mark felt his pulse racing. The screen was still on. She swallowed. It was playing a voicemail. That evening Mark deleted nothing. Not the messages, not the number, not the voicemail. Every night at 3:14 a.m., he still checks his phone. Because sometimes another message arrives. Always from Daniel. Always a few seconds before something happens. And every voicemail ends with the same warning: "Don't answer the door."